Matt, I want to congratulate you on being the second recipient of the new Neuralink chip for your
Oh,
brain.
thank you. Yeah. Thank
I'm
you.
I'm impressed that you were able to use your streamer prestige to cut in line ahead of all of those quadriplegics to get the
Oh,
neurochip.
Jesus. Now when you frame it like that, no,
mean,
never mind. I don't have it.
But you did it for noble causes. You did it so that you could get a leg up in gaming, because we're now finding out that the Neuralink could potentially give you a huge benefit in your reaction times and your accuracy in traditional gaming.
Because all I got to do is think about aiming, and then it does it.
You're removing your hand, right?
Yeah.
So your brain signal, it's electrons, it's got to go down, it's got to move those muscles. They travel at a very specific speed.
And as you get older, those even if it's sending it, it doesn't mean it's going to react very quickly.
Exactly. So if you can remove the whole like arm hand equation from the thought, you can get faster reaction times. It's math, it's science, and
I can't wait. We got the skill-based matchmaking debate going on right now. I can't wait until it becomes, they're just using Neuralink. This isn't fair.
Well, I mean, that's what will become a debate potentially someday.
Yeah.
So we've known about the guy who got the first Neuralink chip, Nolan Arbaugh, if I'm saying his last name correctly. So he's paralyzed from the neck down, I believe, or the shoulders down. So he can't move any of his arms, hands, feet.
Yeah.
And so he got the chip, and the first night, I think, from his recovery, or the first day he came home from recovery from the surgery, he stayed up like 6 hours playing, I think, Civilization.
Yeah. What a gamer. What a gamer.
But anyway, so the thing that you were talking about is, at some point, more people are going to start getting these Neuralink chips, and especially if they're showing to improve reaction times in specific tasks, and if they could even be shown to speed up other types of digital workflows. We're all working on computers nowadays.
Yeah.
That's going to become a valuable product to people who aren't in a situation where they
where
need
it's required.
Right. Where it's required. It'll become an elective surgery at some point, potentially.
Yeah.
And now is the future of gaming going to be like, we're going to have the Neuralink League and the non-Neuralink League, which was a subject they actually discussed on Joe Rogan, which was like, this is going to be in a different level of competition for gaming. And it's kind of wild to think about.
It is cool. I'm going to think of it as a positive. If this is the direction, if this is already happening, and more people he couldn't play video games in the past, right? Like it just wasn't possible to my knowledge. I mean, if he can't even move.
I think he was playing chess before, but he was using the little straw technique.
Okay. Very limited. And so that the fact that he can now actually play games like Civilization and all this stuff that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's got to be such a cool, great quality of life improvement. So if more people can take advantage of that, that's awesome. This seems like a benefit to society, at least in the here and the now.
Okay, Matt. Yeah, let's just focus on all the great things this can achieve for people's quality of life and health. I'm trying to focus on the game stuff. Okay?
Yeah. But then when we get to the gaming, you're right. It will be an interesting discussion. I don't think it's going to be something that happens overnight. It's not going to be. It's probably going to take 5, 10 plus years before we even really ever start to delve into this becoming a normal thing, or even something, worth talking about.
Yeah.
But it's the advancement of technology. It's the slow progress. What is considered fair, what is not. Augmentation is going to become larger and larger part of our lives over the years. And this is kind of just that first step.
Yeah, and despite putting this somewhat quaint gaming spin on the whole, potentially earth-shattering technology that we're starting to witness the first beginning stages of, it's, this really is a moment in history. We're talking about it because it's kind of game-related, because they discuss gaming during the podcast, because Nolan is a gamer, and that's cool, but he's also becoming legitimately one of the first like cyborg people and getting access to he's developing the software along with them, right? Because when something doesn't work well for him, he'll give them feedback
and let people know.
Yeah, they know how to update it, and they know what kind of ways he might want to think about moving the mouse or interfacing with the keyboard. And like, this is the beginning steps.
It just kind of hit me, and I know the man is literally using his mind to play video. That is incredible when you think like that is sci-fi as it gets.
He
right?
described it as using the Force when he was playing games. He was just like, I just think about it.
And the better it gets, the better it gets. Like it's just it is truly incredible. So I wish them all the luck. That is next level.
Yeah, it's I think we're just starting to hear little snippets of its capabilities now. And he's getting another implant, I think, into the other hemisphere of his brain, which will open up new stuff that I'm not smart enough to tell you anything about.
Yeah, I'm definitely not.
But this is, I don't know, like, would you get a chip if it was something where it had been around for a little while? So it had been around for 10 years. People were starting to show up gaming with them. There's a bunch of streamers gaming with chips. And all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I'm kind of like behind, maybe. And the surgery's like maybe not that complicated. Takes a day or something.
I mean, it's your brain, so it's always going to probably be a little complicated. I don't really think they're ever going to get to a point where it's going to be just like a completely risk-free thing, because it's your brain at the end of the day.
I mean, they're pretty good at neurosurgery nowadays, though. They can cut open your head
and technology. I mean,
reliably.
So this could be a segue into something else. But with AI advancements, and we're really we potentially on the precipice of, who knows what. We're in a very pinnacle. I think we're in a pinnacle stage of technology where AI could be the next best thing, and we can use that to push society in one direction, or it could go nowhere. It literally could just be nothing. So who knows what the next 10, 20 years will be for medical advancement, because AI could literally revolutionize the entire world and the medical world. And that could be part of it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard it referred to as the singularity, where our technology is advancing so quickly that we're kind of hitting a point. Some would argue that the point is now where we just can't predict even what the next couple of years are going to be like. Even the best experts in the world are going to be way off the mark when they go, hey, in 2 years, we're all going to be doing this. And it's like, nope, you have no idea. The tech is progressing at an alarming rate, which is both exciting and potentially terrifying, Yeah.
You remember the Will Smith spaghetti meme that was going around where people were using AI to make Will Smith eat spaghetti? Remember that?
I actually missed that one.
It's terrible. It looked awful. And now it looks like someone actually eating spaghetti.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The new AI video stuff is pretty wild.
And that's just video.
When it morphs people mid-frame and you're like, what is happening right now? Like, it doesn't know to keep the same person the whole way through the video.
Well, that's what it was early on. And really early on. And we're talking like only a couple of years ago, it was trash. And now we're at the point,
dude, it felt like 6 months ago for some of that stuff.
And now it's like, you can hardly even tell the difference sometimes. Like it's getting scary good. And that's just for video. So this is, we don't know what's going to happen. There's just no way to know. Like I said, it could be nothing. Could be literally life-changing for all facets of our life.
Yeah. I watched this. I follow this guy on X, Twitter. It seems so weird saying X, but
just
I follow him on Twitter, and he's like basically at the forefront of AI art, where he's trying to use the tools to improve his workflow and stuff. And he'll get concept art or renderings or even small video clips by feeding it very simple sketches that he's doing in real time. And he has it hooked up to like the AI image gen system in real time. So as he's sketching, it'll start interpreting his sketch and evolving it into what it thinks it's supposed to be. Yeah. And he's drawn cars and people and landscapes, and he does it in like a minute or less because he's blocking in the rough shapes to it. And it's incredible to watch because you're like, whoa, this is something that might have taken a concept artist hours to make. And he is a concept artist, but now he's feeding his art in real time to the AI, and he gets to his end result way faster than before, you know. And sure, maybe some of the fine details are a little bit off from what he might want, but he could always go back in and tweak some of that. But it's wild to see it already cutting somebody's workflow down like 2, 3, 4 times, you know.
Right.
It's exciting, scary, and exciting.
And scary at the same time. We're all screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got some interesting topics today. Why don't we keep it light for a little bit longer? Here's something fun. Star Citizen banned 600 players.
For what?
For duping.
Oh, okay.
Which is funny. It's sort of big within the Star Citizen world because duping has been a thing within the game forever because a patch comes out and the game's super buggy and exploitable. And
surprised they did. I'm surprised they actually banned people for that. I mean, it's good. I think they should do that. But at the same time, it's, you know, it's so early access. There's so many bugs and glitches.
Well, it's an interesting kind of shift for the community because the people who take the game really seriously don't want people to be able to cheat the economy.
Right.
And
no, I don't blame them.
Dupe their way to billions of dollars and then be able to buy any ship in the game and do whatever they want. So there's the people that take it seriously. Then there's the people that are casual, so they don't really care. If somebody sends them 100 million credits, they're like, cool, I can go try some spaceships now. And
I mean, that's what happened to me when I first played like 2 years ago. I looked at my inventory. I was like, why do I have millions of credits? Where did this even come from?
Yeah, you got that from some guys that were duping. And then, you know, I'm not saying the guys that sent it to you were duping, but people just spread the wealth.
It ended up,
Yeah. And so now the shift of them going, hey, we're going to pun it. They've always taken the stance that you're not supposed to exploit and you shouldn't be exploiting, and that's against our terms of service or whatever. But they've never enforced it, or at least not in a large scale. And so them banning 600 players for duping, it's not a permanent ban, I don't believe. I think it's a couple months or whatever, but to kind of get the point across is they're going to try and clean up their player economy and maybe start taking the universe more seriously. So for a lot of players, they like it.
Sounds like it's a good step in the right direction, that they are getting closer and closer. It's like we need to shore up these issues so that you would think that they would maybe try to resolve the problems that's allowing them to dupe, you know, the money. But still step in the right direction.
There yet. So it's good to see a preview of what their system is going to be, which is, hey, if we have some exploits, which we probably almost always will because the game's so massive and complex, we will punish you for exploiting the game. And then we'll try and fix it. But you know what?
Until then, banned.
Yeah. So I know you've been excited to play some Elden Ring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, it's weird, and I'm not a fan. I mean, I'm a fan of Elden Ring from like the sidelines. Like I can really appreciate the art and the world crafting. I just don't want to get punched in the face repeatedly by a tentacle boss guy. I've been hearing that it's a tad bit challenging, and that is coming from players who beat the original game, which for me is like, I wouldn't even touch it because it's already on that level of challenge that I don't want to deal with.
Yeah, so I think it's really fascinating. I think it's a really interesting. So let me get this straight. From my perspective, the DLC is fantastic so far. I have complaints with it, but oh my God, is it basically everything that I wanted for the most part. It is, like you said, challenging. The bosses that you fight are absolutely insane. Probably some of my favorite bosses so far in like from Software. They are incredible.
Yeah.
They are absolutely fantastic. Mesmer, I won't. He was like the trailer boss. So he was a trailer boss. So I don't feel bad like actually saying his name. Awesome boss battle. There's been like another like 2 or 3, or at least 2 others that are just like straight up phenomenal. And I've really enjoyed my time. But not everyone is as thrilled with this DLC. And to my surprise, especially after the really great reception from critics, it's getting 10 out of 10s. I think it's the highest rated video game DLC ever. Previously it was from...
Those critics are just flexing. They're like, yeah, I beat it. What's up?
Yeah.
10 out of 10. So good. I'm so good at this game, bro.
The thing is that some of them criticized the difficulty. Yeah. They were saying that there were some bosses that were just way too overtuned. I haven't gotten to the final boss, but I hear they are absolutely ridiculous to the point where it's not even fun. And I'd be
curious to hear your review after you get to those bosses.
And that's what I'm a little worried about, because so far it is like punch you in the face difficult a lot of times. Nothing has taken as long as Melania for me. So like Mesmer took me about 2.5 hours, but it felt like a fair 2.5 hours where I was slowly learning the fight. And for the most part, I was getting better and better and better and better.
Oh my God.
But
2.5 hours on a boss. And I know you're good at these games. Like you play a lot of them, you beat them, you think games are easy, that I was like, that was pretty challenging. So you taking 2.5 hours on a boss, I don't know what that would be for me, but that would be me not playing the game ever again.
Yeah, no, I hear that. But like when you're fighting this boss and you're seeing all the moves that he's doing and they're just like so insanely incredible. And then you're like, I'm going to poke him once. And you're like, yeah, I did some damage. And then he does his entire wall run again. Yeah. So that gets to some of the criticisms. And so this is, even though it's getting great reviews from developers and players as well, it was sitting at mixed reviews for a while on Steam. Now, that is from performance issues. There is stuttering, and they've never really been the best when it comes to performance. A lot of people give them leeway because it's from software, and they're incredible.
We need to stop, though. I mean, come on, you guys are selling so many copies of your games. Optimize that shit. Also, it's a DLC. You guys should have figured out the optimization stuff at this point.
Though the DLC does, I don't know if they did anything different. It does look better in a lot of ways. Like some of their, like you enter, they're the masters of going through a small corridor and then you open up into like this beautiful, like absolutely stunning vista. And they like it. I think they did something to lighting too. It looks fantastic. I would argue it looks better than the base game. But there's also people that are downvoting it or giving it a negative review because of the challenge. And so I wanted to ask you, do you think that a game being too difficult is grounds for a negative?
That is really up to the reviewer, right? Because you like a good challenge. I can appreciate a good, like, I like Stalker. That's a challenging game that I really enjoy, and I enjoy it because it's challenging. But I could also see why somebody would get into it and they'd be like, so I just started and like a radioactive dog killed me, and now I have to like go all the way back to the start. And you're like, yeah, that does kind of suck. It's brutal, and if the game doesn't inspire you enough right at the start, then that could be it for you. You could just be like, I'm not coming back because this is too hard and I haven't gotten engrossed in the story or the world yet. And so I think for me, I almost look at it more from the developer perspective. You know, what are your fans? What do your fans want? What are they willing to put up with? Because I always think that a more challenging game will be more rewarding from beating it. But that challenge can't just be, it has to be a good challenge. It has to be a challenge where you feel like you're overcoming it due to learning, your intelligence, your approach at problem solving, your improved skill set, as opposed to other ways.
Arbitrary challenge where it's just like you're getting hit once and then it's over and then you have to retry. It's like, oh, I made one mistake and I'm dead. Now I gotta wait. Now I gotta go through another 5 minutes worth of grind just to get to that point again. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, exactly. Like there were some Metroid, like I like Metroid games, but there were some Metroid bosses where I remember one of the Metroid games where you had to beat you fight the boss. You would of course lose your first several times around because it's hard.
Yeah.
And then they would make you do a whole platform jumping sequence to get back to the boss again. And it was a pain in the butt jumping sequence. And those kind of things, that's where I go, okay, like let's put the save point before the jumping sequence, because the jumping sequence is totally not related to the boss in any way whatsoever. You're not learning how to jump better to beat the boss. It's just what you do before you get to it. And so there's some stuff in there where you're like, this is unnecessarily cumbersome. And so
it's funny you mentioned that, because in previous Souls games, that's how it worked, where if you died to a boss, there was like a good minute run back where you had to like slog through all these enemies that are trying to attack you. And it was just this nuisance. And they've learned from that. And they're now they just put the save spot pretty much right before the boss now, which is a godsend. So I agree.
Yeah. I think the reviews are informative, right? Like you can have a legit review that's this game is great, it's so challenging, and a legit review that says this game's terrible, it's way too challenging, because that just informs the devs that you have a pretty wide audience of players that are interested in your game, and that it's not quite catering to all of them. And then it just tells them, okay, do we want to make this experience cater to everyone, or do we just want to accept the fact that maybe our game's really not for this subset of players, and they're just going to have to deal.
That's a good point. I think that, so there's a lot of people right now dunking on the people that are saying that it's too hard. Like you just need to get good, and that like this is a Dark Souls game, so why are you even complaining about the difficulty? That's what it's all about.
Good,
and I hear where they're coming from, because I do agree that the Souls franchise is challenging, and it should be challenging, because if you eliminate that, I think even Miyazaki said, then the game wouldn't be Souls. Like it wouldn't have that draw, because that's one of the reasons.
It's got that demonic, hellish punishment element to it. It fits in with the world building, is you just getting your face beaten frequently.
Right. But I do think that it is a criticism to say that it is too challenging, because as you said before, these are all people that beat Elden Ring. These are all fans of Elden Ring. To get to the DLC, you have to beat Mohg and Radahn, which are late game. Radahn isn't, but like Mohg is, he's like an end game. You basically got through the entire game. You've defeated really challenging bosses. And while they're not as hard as maybe the DLC bosses, like you played the game significantly. So you're a fan of the game. And they're like, man, I can't wait for the DLC. I want more of that. And then you get there and it just slams you in the face over and over. Like, this isn't what I signed up for. This is not fun at all. Like, I'm not enjoying myself. And so I do think that while people are dunking on those players for like just get good, it's also a fair criticism. It's like, this is not the game I thought I was buying. And so if someone goes into the review section on Steam and they're like, I really enjoyed Elden Ring, but I thought it was pretty challenging, and then they see, holy cow, people are not liking it because it's too hard, they can make an informed decision if this game is right for them, if this DLC is right for them. So from a consumer standpoint, I think it's actually an absolutely valid criticism.
Yeah, super helpful.
Yeah,
because if you were on the brink of Elden Ring being too hard, you're like, I enjoyed it, but man, like, those boss battles were just too much. Like, I barely got through them. And then somebody's like, the DLC is way harder. You could be like, oh, okay, like, I'm not going to buy it then. Like, I just don't want to suffer through it. Does Elden not have a difficulty slider?
So that's where things get, the entire series has got a little bit of a toxicity to it, especially for Elden Ring, because this is the first time it's had something like this to this extent. Is there's summons. So you can, certain bosses will allow you to summon like a little helper. And then you can also call in a Ash of War or a spirit. And I can remember I never use them because I like the challenge. And people will just not do that because they feel like if I don't use, or if I do use these summons, I am lesser of a player. And a lot of these bosses are getting to people to the point where they're like, I have to use my ashes. I have to use my mimic to assist me. And that makes me not a man or whatever, whatever justification. And so what I find really interesting is I don't think that they've found a good balance for it all, because when you don't use the summons, it's like really, really difficult. These bosses are no joke.
But you're not doing it because you're just such a badass gamer.
Well, it's also because I just enjoy the challenge and it's, fun content
you're
for my
also
stream.
A streamer. You think your fans would kind of like slap you around. They're like, stop using your summon, bro.
Not necessarily. A lot of them are like, Matt, you should just use the summon. I'm like, no, just give me some time. And after like an hour, we get through the boss. It's like, hey, look at that. We did it. Right?
Yeah.
But I think an issue is that a lot of people don't want to use those summons because of those reasons. But I would even argue that the developers are having a hard time balancing it because, like I said, when you're all by yourself, it's brutally difficult. But as soon as you bring in a summon, it becomes much easier to the point where it doesn't give you that satisfaction. So they haven't really been able to get that to work properly.
You know what's interesting, and I wonder if this might be a path that they'd want to try down the road. But I know Elden Ring kind of has some of this already where you have stats in the game and you level up and you get new stuff and abilities that makes you better. But roguelike games kind of have the perfect formula where you try, you fail, you come back a little bit stronger, you try, you fail, you come back a little bit stronger until you've got enough knowledge versus kind of stat padding to a degree to get you through the boss. And it feels much more natural and much more rewarding because you beat it right at that tipping point. Essentially, and different people have a different tipping point, but it's not. Usually, they don't make it obvious and be like, "Oh, you had to get up to level 25 before you could beat this boss or something," and then people can make fun of you. It's more just, "Hey, whatever." It just happens when it happens. That kind of thing might be interesting to integrate to a Souls game.
I don't know how they would,
but I don't know either. You'd kind of have to redevelop some of the mechanics, but that's one of the most natural mechanics of beating a challenge curve that I've found is the roguelite approach. Yeah. Which is cool.
I think they're running into the problem where and this is why I love the game, is that it's a sandbox at the end of the day. There's like hundreds of weapons, there's tons of spells, and there's all of these different summons that you can bring on in, and everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. And like, how do you balance a boss around the overpowered builds, the mediocre, and then the ones where people are just kind of winging it because they don't know the game, they may not have all the upgrades. Like, how do you make a boss that fits every single one of them and make it feel rewarding? It's very challenging. I think they did a really good job with it in the base game. And then when they ramped up the difficulty, it's like, holy cow, not all of the like maybe mid to lesser builds now are not performing the way that they did kind of, or at least somewhat acceptable in the base game. And people are just getting thrashed.
And that kind of sucks too, from the perspective of sometimes it's really fun to go with a not meta build in those games, because you said you were doing your whip build, which I don't think was like a super powerful build, but you were having fun with it, right? So if all of a sudden that build becomes so challenging it's not fun anymore, you've sort of reduced the variety of how people can approach your game to a degree, right? And what kind of fun they can have with it. So a lot of considerations. I'd imagine the devs are all getting good feedback from this, and
I'm sure they are.
And the word is out. If you think you're at that tipping point with Elden Ring, you might not like that DLC. Wait a little while, see if they rebalance it, see if they change something.
It's really good though. If you like the challenge and you don't mind getting punched in the face repeatedly, some absolutely incredible bosses.
Cool. I will watch some videos on them.
I will watch the lore videos, and that's about it.
Oh man, what else you playing, Matt? What else?
Played Elden Ring. I've been playing so much Elden Ring, dude.
I know.
I have like 350 hours in that game. It's wild.
My God.
It's a single player game. I don't think I've ever put that much time into a single player game in my entire life. I like it a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
But I also played Still Wakes the Deep. Have you heard anything about that?
I've heard remind me of it, because I know the name.
It's a horror game. You are a man who is on a offshore oil rig, and something happens where all of a sudden people are dying, and some sort of mystery as to like what's going on. It's kind of supernatural things are occurring, and you got to try to survive.
Is it kind of like a mystery game where you're solving puzzles?
There are puzzles, kind of, but it is a linear horror game where you are just trying to go through the levels, sort of like I was going to say Alan Wake, but it's not like Alan Wake. Literally just like a Dead Space.
You're on an oil rig? for the whole thing?
Yes, the entire time you're on an oil rig. And you have no weapons. There's like light stealth where you can like pick up some objects and throw them to kind of distract the enemies and stuff like that. The monsters. It's really well crafted. The story was solid. It's very vague because it's more of Lovecraftian horror where it's supposed to be the mystery of it all and what's going on. And that's the whole part of Lovecraft horror, I feel, is that you never really truly understand the monsters and why they're there and like what's going on. I liked the characters. The story was interesting, and the horror elements were pretty solid. It was a good game.
Cool. Yeah, I just saw, the only thing I saw in it was just how good it looked. It looked really good. Yeah,
it was on Game Pass too. So just fantastic Game Pass title. Like not a 10 out of 10. I know some people are calling it a masterpiece, but I didn't think it was that good. But for a Game Pass, if you already have Game Pass and you like horror and you're looking for sort of a walking simulator because you're not really interacting with a ton of stuff. It's like you're climbing ladders and doing jump puzzles and things like that, but you're not really, there's no combat. It's just trying to make sure you're not getting attacked and trying to survive, essentially. That's it.
So if you get attacked, do you just die, essentially?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That can still be really scary, though. I think that's more scary to a degree because once you get into a fight with a monster and it has fight mechanics, that kind of takes some of the horror out of it, and it gives you a
because it gives you power.
Yeah, it gives you power. Where if you feel powerless and your only defense is to run, it's much more terrifying.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Just don't get caught, and you won't die. Have you
horror
seen
games?
Yeah,
go on.
Well, I was gonna say, have you seen the trailers to Forever Winter?
No, I have not.
It's it kind of looks like Helldivers meets.
Oh yeah. I have.
It's like Helldivers, but more of a survival game in a dystopian Earth. I think. It looks wild, man. Like you're kind of going around scavenging and stuff, but you've got your co-op party and you're fighting NPCs, but they're like. Some of them are giant robots. Some of them are Terminator robots. It's like this dystopian future where machines have taken over. And then randomly, it looks like what's that Titan anime? What's that called? Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan.
There's like giant people picking you up and like going to eat you or something. It just looks wild and terrifying. And I don't know, just talking about horror, it made me think about that trailer.
Right.
Trailer looks interesting. I was thinking about doing a deep dive video on it or something.
Well, the tags for it are a looter shooter, third person PvE sci-fi, and it says it's a co-op tactical survival horror shooter. So, I mean, it sounds neat.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a release date for it.
No. The art looks pretty wild. And you can see in the trailer, you can see the kind of the rough edges where you're like, oh, they're still working on it. Like a bunch of the animations are a little janky at times, and you can see the low FPS at times, but still impressive from what looks like kind of an indie team making a wild looking project.
Yeah. I don't know why this reminded me, because they've got like some horde elements to it. Have you been keeping up to date on Warhammer 40K, the kind of Space Marine game? Space Marine 2?
Cool, yeah, because it's going to be co-op, and you can upgrade your character with all the cool little stuff.
The scale of it's large. It's going to have a single player, which there's I think a full single player. There are co-op missions and multiplayer. I have no idea if that multiplayer is going to be any good.
Multiplayer and co-op, so PvP multiplayer?
There is PvP multiplayer, like 5v5. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems wild because the whole game seems designed around the horde system, which is just tearing through hundreds of monsters. So you take away the horde and then you fight one other player. Like I could see that being more like a MOBA system where you mix the PvP in with the hordes that would be part of the MOBA element.
It's going to be more of a traditional PvP.
Yeah.
The stuff that they've shown off doesn't look as... I'm excited for the single player and the co-op. It looks awesome. They showed off the technology.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
They've got like hundreds of enemies on screen, and they're all interactable. The horde shooter, the zombie game World War Z, you ever play that? Where it's just like a wave of enemies.
Yeah.
It was maybe not to that extent, but like tons, so like
Yeah.
literally just a
They
wave
look-
of Tyranids
they
coming your
look
way.
more high fidelity than the
Yeah.
zombie one, because the zombie one looked good, but it is just zombies. All
They
kinda
turned
doing
into
the
like a
same thing.
blob.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And this one is like, with the Tyranids kind of crawling over each other to get to you, and you're just like chewing through them. Some of the scenes in the trailers where it shows them in the background, and they're probably using lower fidelity versions of them for the background shots, but you're still seeing like thousands of them running, and it's just insane to look at. Really, that Warhammer stuff is knocking it out of the park with the visuals. The Dark Tide, despite of what some people might think about that game, I think it was fun for a little bit. The visuals were insane. The world crafting for that was insane.
The world building of Warhammer is pretty incredible, and I think they're following through with that in the game. As for the multiplayer, though, I don't know, because the main appeal is that single player and fighting off the hordes. And while some people might like the idea of going Space Marine versus Space Marine, when they showed the gameplay, it was like two dudes just kind of sitting there out in the open, like blah 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 blah. Just because they're Space Marines, they take a lot of damage, and it didn't look as engaging, right? Yeah, so it might be like tank battles are fun, but the problem with tank battles is that as soon as another tank shows up and it becomes a 2v1, you lose. Right. If you're just solo. So it might be a very methodical, very tactical team base where you really need to use strategy and bait people in and make sure you're always with a friend, kind of like Halo to some extent. Yeah. We'll see.
To make that good, I feel like you'd need a combat system with like the depth of for Valor or something, where you've just got multiplayer melee combat that's got a nuanced level of blocking and parrying and stamina that actually somehow works in a multiplayer. But
For Honor?
Yeah. For Honor. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I do. I played it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that had a pretty good melee system for multiplayer. I think one of the better ones I've played that let people legitimately counter attacks and have like a full-on fight experience, which is, it's hard to do that in melee games.
It's a fighting game disguised as an action game.
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly what it is, right? So I feel like any tanky situation with Warhammer, since all the Space Marines have like chainsaw swords and shields and all that fun stuff, like they might have to integrate some intense melee mechanics to actually make that good. Otherwise, you're just
I think it's going to be more range combat. Yeah.
I don't see that fun, but maybe, who knows?
Yeah. So all in all, though, like you said, the customization, the progression, there's not only going to be just your normal, like you can now get like your guy just fully decked out and all these like accolades and golden stuff on all over your character. But also there's going to be your natural progression of your perks and your weapons get better and stuff like that. It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's one of the top games on my list that I'm excited to play, just because artistically it's the apex of, I mean, I shouldn't say apex because that's a game, but it's the ultimate art form expression in video game. It really is one of the best looking, finely crafted looking things coming out. And yeah, I think Games Workshop is just like, they figured out how to at least make a damn good looking game. You know, a lot of their games have started to like really turn heads of people who are like, wait, what's Warhammer again? This looks awesome.
Which is a little ironic because they give out their intellectual property to basically anyone who wants it, and there's been so much shovelware over the years. So I do agree to some extent, but I
didn't know that they gave their IP out to everybody. I thought there were much more.
There is a ton of Warhammer games. Like there is a ton of them. You probably haven't heard of them because they're not very good.
Well, I've played a bunch of them, but I didn't know. I don't know what all that. I've played Bolt Gun, which is that little like,
that was good.
Yeah, that was cool. I played the old RTS ones, which I think they're still making those, right? Or maybe not.
Well, there's the Warhammer ones, like you're not talking about Total War, are you?
Well, yeah. Okay, so there's the Total War ones, and then there's whatever it is, the Warhammer ones, where you're a light base building kind of. It's essentially StarCraft, but Warhammer.
Yeah, that one didn't do so well. There was a recent one, and it didn't.
Okay.
It didn't hit.
Yeah, and then Darktide, and then the Vermintide and stuff. So beyond that, is there like a ton of stuff?
There's a lot of other smaller titles.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. I usually with an IP like that, they keep it a little closer to home and like safeguard it. Now with Warhammer,
the Warhammer just kind of just throws stuff at the wall a lot of times. Yep. Unless things have changed over the years and I just haven't been paying close attention.
Well, that one's on my list. I can't remember when it's coming out. Maybe September or something like that. I feel like there's a bunch of titles I'm waiting on that are coming out in September-ish time frame. Ooh, I watched 2 pretty darn good movies since last podcast.
Okay.
The first one I watched is called Challengers. And I don't want to, speak to hype up my movie buff skills too much, Matt, but kind of had a proud moment while watching this movie. Okay.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I started to realize just how in tune I am with movie culture. I didn't know anything about Challengers. All I knew was that Zendaya was in it. She was smoking hot, and it's kind of like it's sort of like a sports drama with like a weird sexual overtone to it.
Okay.
Like watching the trailer, I was like, this looks cool. It was getting good reviews. So we started watching it. Right at the start, I was like, this soundtrack, there's something about it. It was kind of going between electronic music and then classical music, but with weird tonal stuff going on. And I was like, this sounds kind of like Trent Reznor. I'm used to his scoring from The Social Network and stuff. Sure enough, movie ends. He gets the composer credit for the film. I'm like, boom.
Boom. I'm watching a lot of movies. There we go.
Got it down.
Nice.
Second thing was just the color of it. They kind of had this old-timey, almost 70s aesthetic to it. And I was thinking, is this shot on film? That would be crazy. Like, nobody shoots on film anymore. Only these like super pretentious directors shoot on film still, and it's just because they're weird.
Was it shot on film?
I looked it up afterwards. Shot on film. 2 for 2, Matt.
2 for 2, baby.
Then, as we're watching the movie, I noticed there's a lot of interesting things about the way it's shot. They spend a lot of time with close-up facial shots and expressions, and they linger with them a lot more than you would see in most American directed movies. I was like, you know what? This it feels a little bit like French direction, but French direction is usually has more depressive undertones. And this one had a little bit more comedic undertones, but with those long, drawn-out facial expressions.
It's a sub-district of this county from France.
Which means it's directed by an Italian director.
Of course, yes.
Sure enough, directed by an Italian dude.
God damn it, dude.
While I was watching it, I was like, I don't know. Maybe I'm watching too many movies, man.
You might be. That's cool, though, that you're catching on to that stuff.
Yeah, so I just thought I would flex my film buff skills there. Anyway, it's a good movie. I really enjoyed it. Fun, kind of surreal to an extent. It's like a sports drama, but also like a weird love triangle thing at the same time. I know
what it is, and there was a picture and a quick video going around online with her and the 2 guys, and it was memed on pretty hard. So
Okay, I'll have to check out the meme, but I know the scene in the movie.
Basically, it was making fun of her boyfriend, Spider-Man. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but yeah. Like, he was like super sad because apparently acting is the real life, and it would upset him that she is acting with 2 other men. That was basically the gist of it. Was like, okay.
Yeah, because he's totally not like doing movies or scenes where he's making out with other people.
Right. It was.
Yeah, there's the
internet.
There's a lot of good kind of sexual tension scenes in this movie, and so Zendaya is smoking hot in this, and she's a great actress. But the other 2 guys really steal the show with their performance. They're sort of written as just more interesting characters, and it almost feels like the movie's more about them, and she's kind of like a medium between them to a degree. in more
Gotcha.
ways than one. Yeah. Anyway, solid movie. I highly recommend it. And the other movie I watched was called Pinball: The Man Who Saved the Game.
Pinball.
It was actually really good. I found it because I was looking up one of the actors from Challengers, because I was like, I haven't seen this guy in anything. And I looked at his little filmography and I found Pinball on there, and it was really highly reviewed. And I looked it up, and it's a super interesting film.
It is really highly reviewed. What the hell? I've never heard of this movie.
Yeah, I think you should go watch it, because not only is
go watch it right now.
It doesn't like give you the full history of pinball. It gets into that a little bit, but it's based on a real character who helped save pinball from what basically was getting lumped into the realm of gambling for whatever reason.
Gambling.
Yeah, so there's like this story going around that the mob was using it to like get around gambling laws and get people addicted to like pinball, so they would be pumping quarters into their machines and basically getting their little casinos going in bars and stuff.
That's
and shirking
wild.
the laws. Yeah, and so New York, LA, a lot of big states and cities had it completely banned. And so you had to like find one in some sort of like off the grid bar to even play pinball in these states. And so that was sort of one of the underlying stories of the movie, is sort of getting pinball recognized again as like, hey guys, it's a game, like relax. It's not a gambling thing.
Yeah.
And then also sort of the story of the character who helped, make that happen, and his character is very interesting, and kind of his life and stuff like that. It's just a fun movie in that it's just as much a story about a character that's really enjoyable and likable, and it's also about pinball at the same time. It sort of feels like both sections of the movie are good in their own right, and yeah, so nice. I enjoyed it for that.
Hell yeah.
And I'm also looking at getting a pinball machine, which is why
I thought that was the person who was. I thought you were that person who was thinking about getting pinballs. So
I'm gonna get a virtual pinball machine. I've decided on it, but they are flipping expensive, dude.
Yeah, I figured. I have a friend who used to make not pinball machines, but would make like essentially big consoles for like your normal arcade consoles, and they are pricey. They are not cheap.
You can get the cheap ones, but I think you get what you pay for. And I've been reading through all the reviews, and I sort of found the one that I want to get, and it's like, it's a lot.
But it gives you like infinite options, doesn't it? Like
you can play hundreds of tables on it.
Right.
And the virtual stuff looks really cool, because the physical pinball machines, like, I mean, it's hard. You can't beat a physical pinball machine in terms of the experience, but when those things break, you're replacing servos, you're replacing all these mechanical parts, you're rewiring things. Like, it turns into a hobby / job to
maintain it.
Yeah. And so I was reading up all this stuff, and people are just like, it's great, but just make sure you have time to maintain these machines, because they will break on you. And I was just thinking, I don't have the time for another full on hobby. So VPin looks like it's still got a lot of the mechanical parts. And what happens is when you press the button to say flip the flipper, it'll actually knock a motor inside of the machine to give you that force feedback of pressing the button and feeling the flipper. And so they got all this really cool looking force feedback technology in it to get virtual pinball to the point where it feels like it's 80 to 90% of the real experience. Which, when you combine that with also being able to play any table you want versus just one.
Bro, normal pinball machines are insanely expensive.
They're collector's items now. If you got one from like the 90s, they're like 10 to 15 grand.
That's insanity.
Yeah, people actually get them.
Ninja Turtles, $9,000. Good God.
Yeah.
It's a pinball machine. I mean, I know they're like really complex and there's a lot of effort that goes into it, but that is not cheap.
Nope. Yeah, people get them and then hold on to them because they appreciate in value. So they
I would imagine so.
They play them, they have fun with them, they keep them well maintained, and then if they get bored of them later, it's like, hey, guess what? Your machine appreciated $3,000, you know? Like,
yeah,
you can sell it, make a profit now.
Holy, that's wild.
Yeah. They're also huge. So they take up
they're
space.
big.
So yeah, that was another consideration. It's like, where the hell am I going to put this
Where am I
thing?
even going to put this?
Yeah. Yeah. The company I'm going to order from makes a vertical one too, which I thought was interesting, where it's like, hey, not everybody has room for a full-size pinball machine. So like the vertical one fits in a smaller space, and then you can also play other arcade games on it. I was like, oh, that's pretty clever.
That's clever.
I'm going for the real deal, Matt.
The real deal.
Yeah. It's going to be my new YouTube content. It's just me.
Just pinball content.
Pinball live stream, bro. Let's go.
There you go. That'd be fun. I watched a couple of things. I watched, I think I've talked about Dark Matter. Have you heard about Dark Matter? It's a Apple show.
I've seen the title, but I've never seen it.
I'm going to sound like a shill. I think Apple absolutely it's a slam dunk. They have so many great shows. I don't have any Apple products. The only Apple product that I subscribe to and have is Apple TV. And someone over there loves good sci-fi because like every show is science fiction except for some. But like they get like big actors. So I'm watching Dark Matter. I'm watching Presumed Innocent just came out, which stars Jake Gyllenhaal, who is like kind of a big actor. And
he's huge.
Yeah. I watched all 3 episodes in one go and I was like, I want more. Please give it to me. It was well acted. There's a mystery behind it. Really, really fantastic. Kind of goes back to the whole Dr. Disrespect thing where it's like presumed innocent, like, you know,
right.
It's the whole, like, these accusations are pretty bad and there's no proof yet. But both shows I've really liked. Dark Matter is definitely sci-fi. Presumed Innocence is not. And it is a slow burn, but man, it's the payoff now is like, oh, things are getting wild. So really enjoying both.
I like the title Dark Matter. It makes me think about Dark, which is a great show too. You ever see that one?
I never finished it. I got to like season 2 and then I just, for some reason, just pissed off. I don't know why.
It's a tough show because it's very slow for a lot of it and very complex. So yeah. I found funny, the biggest challenge is going between seasons, because then you get to season 2, and if you were watching it when it came out, and you get to season 2, you're like, wait, what happened in season 1?
You need like a flow chart of everything, all the characters. What my issue, it wasn't really an issue, I more found it funny, is that it kind of was acting like it was a horror, where the music would get like really ominous and scary, and then there would never be a payoff to that. It was just ominous for the sake of ominous. It's like, because it's not a scary show. It's just not. But they kept like, it's creepy only, I think, because they kept like putting in the creepy music. When you watch it from the perspective,
some pretty
it's not
dark stuff that ends.
There is dark moments.
Yeah.
Unless the like later seasons, but there was never like a jump scare or it's actually creepy. I don't know. I never found it. It felt like it was trying to do that, but it never executed it beyond just creepiness for the sake of it trying to be ominous, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I do hear what you're saying. I found it just set the tone for the show in a way that felt appropriate for the content of the journey. But I do think also, because the show is so essentially dark the whole time, it kind of weighs on you. You watch it and you feel a little bit depressed after you watched it, but it's so good at the same time, where you're like, oh man, it's good, but I feel bad after I watch it. So yeah, well, that's cool. Yeah, I'll have to, whenever I re-up my Apple subscription, I've got the a long list.
There's a lot of shows on it. They've got Severance. They got the 2 that I just mentioned, Ted Lasso. They've got,
when is Severance getting the next season, man?
I think it's soon. Hopefully they're shooting soon.
I'll resubscribe for Severance, because that's I think one of the best shows to come out in the past couple years.
Yeah, it was really good. Season 2 release date announcement coming in a few weeks.
Ooh, the announcement coming in a few weeks.
The announcement, yeah. Okay. Coming from, Ben Stiller was I didn't know Ben Stiller was producing it or a part of it.
Yeah, apparently he produces and directs quite a lot of stuff now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. they've got a lot of great shows. I'm honestly, I think it's like one of the better platforms in terms of actually like decent content. Reminds me a lot more of like HBO. It's not your Netflix where there's so much garbage on Netflix now.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Netflix's problem is that they've become so big that they're just catering to everybody, and their little algorithm sucks. So it's like, you know what, you might also like this garbage. And you're like,
you
no,
might like
I
this
wouldn't.
Trash.
Yeah. And it's like, there is plenty of really good stuff on Netflix.
It's hard to find.
Yeah. And sometimes I find where I'm like, I don't know. I like to watch comedy specials on Netflix or whatever platform has comedy specials, but there's tons on Netflix that come out. So I'll usually watch them. And then if I boot up Netflix to watch something, to like browse for something, it never puts the new comedy specials towards the front, where it's like, hey, that's all I like to watch. You think you would have figured it out by now? Why are you not putting this up here?
Would you like to watch the new reality TV show with a bunch of like just trashy people? Would you want to like to watch that? Huh?
Their algorithm sucks, man. It's like, get with it, guys. It can't be that hard. Everybody's got an algorithm now. Yours sucks. You know, you're too big to have a shit algorithm.
I mean, either they're pushing these reality TV shows a lot, or people are just watching them, and so they're getting pushed to the top. Because you go to like the most watched, like number 1, number 2, like they gotta have like 10, and there's like 3 of them in there. It's like, people are really watching this, huh? Like, okay, I thought we were beyond this, but I guess not.
No, man, trash TV's here to stay forever.
Yeah, it probably is.
You're just not talking to enough people of culture, Matt.
I guess so. I guess. I mean, it is watching basically a train wreck in real time, so I get it.
I think
remember Flavor Flav? Remember Flavor of Love back in the day?
Yeah.
it was so trashy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, I was just reading that Jennifer Lawrence, big, huge
J-Lo.
Superstar, J-Law.
J-Law?
Jennifer Lawrence is different than J-Lo.
Oh, you said Jennifer Lawrence. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, not Lopez.
I thought you said Lopez for some reason. My brain...
Easy to confuse. Yeah. So Jennifer Lawrence, they are both actresses.
They are.
J-Lo just did that super cool Titanfall movie.
Which is why I thought you was talking about J-Lo. Continue.
I want to watch that just to talk about it on the podcast, but I can't sit through J-Lo in a mech for
I heard it's
2
pretty
hours. Bad. Yeah. It's got to be terrible. Anyway, Jennifer Lawrence, I believe, is doing a movie that's based on like the Real Housewives or something like that. Okay. Simply because she's a huge fan of the Real House, like a huge fan. So I don't know if she's like made that project happen, or somebody just knew that about her and was like, hey, you want to do this project? So
want to get involved?
Yeah. And now I'm like, well, shit, if Jennifer Lawrence is doing a movie about the Real Housewives, I might watch it, but otherwise, she's a great actress. I know, she's very good. She's very funny.
I saw her, she did a comedy movie where, I can't remember the name of it, but it was very funny, and I enjoyed it. It was endearing.
Yeah, I think I saw that one too. The one where it's I swear, hard is in the name, and I just can't remember what the name is.
Yeah, she basically gets hired to date someone's son, and it's kind of a romantic comedy, but it goes in a direction that I liked and didn't get weird with it. Yeah, and I thought it was good. I legitimately thought it was a good movie.
Yep. Same. It didn't go in the sort of typical route that you would expect the rom-com to go. It still stayed true to a lot of the same beats of, character progression and development and stuff. But
yeah, it did.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for a good rom-com because people knock them because they're predictable.
Oh, I saw Hitman. I watched that based off your suggestion, and it was really good.
Yeah,
I mean, it was basically two hot people acting, and they're good actors, and I liked it. And you're right, it also went a direction. The ending, I was like, okay, I guess this is how it ends. Like, this seems like a direction, and it was good.
Yeah, it is unfair how talented Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt are, because they're both incredibly attractive people.
Oh, I'm thinking Hitman, not Fall Guy.
Shit. Yeah. I'm getting mixed up.
I mean, both. They're. I'm thinking the other two attractive individuals. Didn't you say you watched Hitman with the romantic comedy?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah, now I remember. Okay. Too many, dude. There's too many movies.
You're just watching too many movies.
There's that Michael Fassbender movie where he's a hitman also, which I did also watch.
Yes, I haven't seen that one.
For a second. That one's more, it's not a comedy.
No.
It's him narrating to himself for like an hour and a half. Narrating his thoughts. Yeah, so that's cool. Hitman was solid. I did like, that was a better one than Fall Guy, I think. Fall Guy is good also. Too many movies, Matt. We're watching too many movies.
We are.
Yeah. Enjoying the heat?
No.
Yeah.
My body gets too hot and I start sweating like everyone else. And I'm just like, I'm uncomfortable now.
Do you have AC? I know
I do have AC, but at the same time, it just gets hot. And it's, you can't do anything when you're hot. Because, like, what do? Take off your clothes, and then you're like, oh, I'm naked now, and I'm still hot. So,
yeah. Well, and I'm surprised you probably don't get very good ventilation under the stairs where your recording studio is.
I mean, you would know because it's your staircase level, Cap. How about you? I don't know. Give me some more airflow down here, please.
Yeah. I took a little vacation over the weekend. First time in a while. Yeah, went out to the Oregon coast, man. Rented a little cabin spot out there. It was great. Fantastic. Got to the beach, got sunburn, did all the good stuff.
You got to lather up on that sunscreen.
Got to lather it up.
You should know. I know for sure. I go outside. I always have to have sunscreen on.
Oh, my God, dude. Yeah, I'm like, I know my middle age is just going to be like long white clothes, like those long flowy white shirts and white pants, and then like a wove
big old sombrero
hat. Yeah, that's just gonna be me going outside. I've got Irish genetics, I'm kind of a European mutt, but my mom's mostly Irish, and so I'm just like meant to live in overcast rainy climates, and then as soon as the sun comes out I'm like stop.
Yeah, you're about as white as I am, and I'm pretty white.
This is me tan right now, actually. Wow. I got a nice tan over the weekend.
You actually might be whiter than I am then.
Yeah, no, I turn red. I don't turn any sort of brownish shade at all.
Become a lobster.
Yeah. There's no pigment in there. It just turns red and swollen. I'm just like...
and uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, the sun is my natural enemy.
It's hilarious.
I know it sucks. It's because I love nature and I love the beach, and then whenever I get to the beach, I'm just like, is there any shade here?
Because your ancestors live in a place where there was always overcast.
Yeah.
And now you're like, there's actually a thing called the sun now.
Yeah. I know. Well, also if you go to Ireland and see how white they are over there, they look like me. They're super pale, and then they turn red when stuff happens. You're like, okay, that's their two colors, white and red.
Pretty much.
Good. But yeah, Oregon coast, real nice this time of year. Like it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Shall we wrap up the pod there?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, I forgot to do our proper intro where we shill out our Patreon and stuff. But for the people watching live now, they know that if you become a Patreon member, you get to drop by on Mondays, watch us record live, and you get to come to the after podcast show where we talk about the real cool stuff.
Yes.
So how we really feel about all the controversial subjects. That's where it comes out. But we appreciate your support. If you guys want to support us on Patreon, cool. If not, like, subscribe, ding the notification bell, do the other stuff on your podcasting platforms like Spotify and whatnot. You can find us on all the various popular podcasting platforms. We appreciate you very much. And Matt is going to leave you with some words of wisdom.
Okay, so life can be hard. Challenges are you're going to encounter challenges throughout your experience. And one of the things that will assist you is skidoo tree fragments. Now, what this does is that it increases your damage and reduces the damage bosses do against you in the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. So if you are struggling on those bosses, make sure you go out and explore the world to pick up those fragments. You're welcome.
Skidoo tree fragments.
They're called skidoo tree fragments. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. You had me for a while. I was like, he's into some crystal stuff now. Like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, no, it's literally a thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think, are missing that part in the DLC, which is another reason why it's so hard. Because if you don't actually get the fragments, you get like one-shotted or two-shotted.
Yeah. So what you're saying, Matt, is you're at a point in life where perhaps the challenges seem too hard to overcome.
Yes.
Do a little bit of leveling up. Come back. Try it again, you know? Study
you
up.
could try to bring it to life, you know, like a real life situation, or you could. I was just referencing Elden Ring, but sure, we can go with that.
Build the skills you need in life to overcome your challenges. Is what Matt's saying.
Or get skidoo tree fragments, or that
too. Well, yeah, it applies to Elden Ring as well. Thank you everybody for dropping by. We appreciate you all. And we'll see you next week on Wednesday, maybe with a surprise guest. I don't know. We're working on some people here. Some big names, man. Way more famous than us, potentially. All right. Bye, everybody.
Take care.